The Unwanted, Chapter 24. Please note that there is a warning on this chapter. We saw earlier Kuhan's actions and panic over Kian and Jimmy's appearance being part Vietnamese and part Caucasian. This chapter points out that things were more difficult for the children of Vietnamese and African American lineage. And that said, there are some disturbing phrases which I will be skipping, but you will see them in your book. The Noodle Shop was 15 minutes from our home, next to an old buffalo farm. Behind it, gleaming under the pale streetlight, were railroad tracks, the stench of animal dung mixed with the smell of grilled pork in the air. The shop was an annex of someone's kitchen, extended into the garden with a couple of large tables and a few benches. The owner was a middle-aged woman with an overwhelming smell of curry and burned fat in her clothes. She sat on a small wooden stool, cleaning a pig carcass by the well. Her salt and pepper hair was pulled back in a tight bun and held on top of her head by a single porcupine quill. At her feet lay an aluminum pan filled with cooked sausages, some of which spilled over the side and floated above the muddy ground. The pig's belly bore a longitudinal cut that extended from throat to tail, gaping between her expert hands to reveal a bloody darkness within. In the dimly lit kitchen, 2 pots of broth boiled fervently over the stoves, sending the odors of spices, fish, and meat into the night. We sat on a bench. The shop lady stopped, washed her hands in a basin, and took my mother's order with a bored look. "Would you like some snacks?" she asked. "No, thank you. Just 3 bowls of Peking duck soup for the kids, the largest portions that you have." "You 2 ladies are not eating?" She looked at my mother and Mrs. Luong. They shook their heads in unison. At a table next to us sat a half-naked local prostitute and her customer. They clung together with legs crisscrossed and arms locked like a pair of Siamese twins, slurping their noodles loudly. My mother sat at the edge of the bench playing with my short hair. "Where did you go this afternoon?" she asked. "I took Jimmy and Betty to see Luan." "You are very smart for an 11-year-old boy, Kian," she remarked. "What made you think of going to see her?" "I didn't know where else to go, but I knew we had to get away from the house." "What happened at Luan's?" The lady returned with a tray full of food. The bowls she set in front of us had faded flowers painted on them. Steam rose from the rich, tawny broth, burning my face with its vapors. My stomach gave a violent twist, and my mouth ached from salivating too quickly. I collected myself by giving my soup a twist of lemon. At the next table, the prostitute suddenly sat up, screaming into the dark yard with a harsh voice, "Get out of here!" On her naked shoulders and arms, tiny sores bloomed like red carnations in the spring. "Stop following me everywhere." The soup lady shrugged. "Her children," she explained to us matter-of-factly. "They come here every night to watch their mother eat, and every night she kicks them away." "I don't see anyone," Jimmy said. "Of course you don't," the woman answered. "But they're there." I looked out into the thick night. There was not a star in the sky, not a streetlight in the alley, yet I could see 2 pairs of eyes burning at us like hungry wolves. "American mixed?" Mrs. Duong asked. She nodded. "That's too cruel," my mother remarked. "Why didn't the mother just give them away if she doesn't want them?" "Well, folks don't think she hasn't tried," the soup lady mused. "That wretched woman sold most of her kids as soon as they sprouted their first baby teeth. But these 2 she couldn't sell." My mother didn't answer. I'll tell you something even sadder than this, the woman continued. A few months ago, she lost a child, an older sister of those two, about 10, 11 years old. The girl used to come around here begging for food. They grabbed her one day. It happened right here down this street, 3 men. They had some sort of agreement with the mother, buying the kid's virginity. Well, they took her to that deserted farm next door. One of them put his you-know-what in her mouth, while the other 2 pinned her down. The poor child didn't know, so instead of pleasing him, she bit down on it. My mother interrupted her, looking at us. Eat your soup, kids. Don't listen to the adult conversation. Mrs. Duong spoke up. I heard about that story. They killed her with a rock. That's right, the woman agreed. Smashed her head like a bug. Nobody heard her screaming. The train was too loud when it happened. Then they paid the mother to keep her mouth shut. The police couldn't find the killers, and the girl died in vain. No one cared. I remember that little girl, Mrs. Duong said thoughtfully. Her hair was so bushy it looked like a beehive from afar. It got shaved the day before she died, the soup lady said. It was so kinky, anything that fell into it disappeared. They got all kinds of stuff out of her head. You name it. Toothbrushes, combs, paper clips, rubber bands, and God knows what else. I tell you, your children are lucky that they are white. At least they have a chance to live. The others have only bad luck. I finished the soup and laid the empty bowl back on the table. My sister lapped at her soup slowly like a kitten. My mother looked at me in astonishment. You ate so fast. Would you like to have another bowl? I hesitated. Why don't you eat, Mom? I am not hungry, she said. What happened to you, Mother? Why did it take you so long to come home? She avoided my stare. You don't want to know. Of course I do. You were all we could think about. You went to Saigon, right? We got arrested in Saigon for trading without a license. Her eyes fixed on her nails. The real letdown wasn't the jail time we had to serve, but we lost all of the money. What happened? How should I know? We were having breakfast in the market when I noticed this Chinese guy sitting across my table. I thought I recognized him as a merchant. Duong and I went over making small talk. Small talk? Business talk. The next thing I knew, he pulled out a gun and handcuffs and arrested us in the middle of the crowd. We were thrown in jail. I pushed the empty bowl away. Maybe I shouldn't eat anymore, Mom. You don't have much money. Don't worry, Mrs. Duong interjected. I have a couple of red Chairman Ho's left in my pocket. You kids go ahead and enjoy yourselves. Later that night, after she had put Betty and Jimmy to bed in my grandparents' room, my mother came to say goodnight to me. She sat on the edge of my bed, looking at me through eyes filled with pain. The once highly maintained beauty had long abandoned my mother's face, leaving behind a mask of naked desperation. For a moment, I couldn't recognize who she was, and the confusion stirred up panic in me. What would you have done if I had never come back? She asked. I don't know, Mother. I told her. I'd have waited for your return. What if I didn't come back? Why wouldn't you? You have responsibilities. I couldn't be responsible for you if I were dead. That could happen sometime. If it did, what would you do, Kian? I don't know. Please stop asking me these questions. Just tell me what to do. I cried out in fear. We were going to beg for food if you didn't come back. Jimmy wanted to sell Lou, but we couldn't. My mother burst into tears. Would you abandon your brother and sister? No. My poor boy. She reached out to hug me, and I could taste her tears mixed with mine. I want you to know that if the thought of walking out on them did cross your mind, you don't have to be ashamed of it. I understand. She lifted the sleeve of her blouse to wipe her eyes. It's all right now. I am here and you are safe. So go to sleep. As she left, I called out to her. Yes, darling. She turned to face me. What is it? Please don't leave us.